You're not getting it. It's not clocking to you. It's not clocking to you that I'm standing on business, is it?
We're in the sidewalk, Justin.
I don't give a if you're on the sidewalk. I'm a human being. You're standing around my car at the beach. You know what I'm saying?
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the Behavioral Arts. My name is Spidey, and I use my degree in sociology and psychology, my certifications in criminal interrogation and body language analysis, and over 10 years experience as an award-winning mentalist to teach people behavioral analysis and practical psychology on stage and television shows all over the world. Canadian pop star sensation Justin Bieber has been all over the news recently for one of the most intense paparazzi confrontations that we've seen in years. The 11-minute standoff quickly went viral, getting millions of views and even some musical remixes that Justin Bieber himself shared on his social media.
This is it. At the beach. At the beach. At the beach. And I'm standing on business. At the beach. At the beach.
But the virality and some of the details of this event had a lot of viewers wondering, is this whole thing just a publicity stunt? Or is this a real moment of public outrage? But I gotta tell you, from a behavioral analysis standpoint, there are elements to his body language, facial expressions, word choice, and a visible shift in his behavior that are really fascinating. Let's dive right in. Okay, before we look at the clip that went really viral, that a lot of people are sharing, I want to show you the lead up, what led up to that moment, because there's actually quite a bit that happened before the viral moment. So we're gonna start from the top. This is when he's trying to get to his car and the paparazzi engages him. Take a look.
Bro, what the Not me today, bro.
What's up, Justin?
You know what's up. Don't get in front of my car, bro.
Hey,
I'm not in front of your car, man.
back up. Private property, private property.
I'm here. I'm in the sidewalk.
Doesn't matter.
How do you
You're not
think
on the
it's someone
sidewalk,
with
bro.
you in my face? Get out of
You
my
are not
face.
on the sidewalk. Get on the.
You're
Get on
on
the sidewalk.
private property.
Get
How
on
do
the
you think it's
sidewalk.
going?
I'm not in public
Stop
Get
asking
on.
me how it's going. Get out of here.
Get on the sidewalk.
You're not afraid
Why are
to
you
get
mad
caught.
like that, Justin?
I'm not afraid to actually set boundaries.
Dude, move.
You know what I mean?
Move,
I'm
move.
not afraid to set boundaries. Don't do this.
You're not afraid to be deported.
Sidewalk.
I'm setting
Sidewalk.
boundaries
I'm
with
just
you
saying,
because you're on
just a
private
question.
property.
Just look at where
You're
I
on
am.
private property.
No, in the sidewalk.
I'm a father of a son. No, I'm a father of a real kid.
I understand,
Exactly.
bro. I'm not on the
Stop.
sidewalk.
Now you are. Don't act like you
but I'm
weren't
just
2
asking.
seconds ago.
Happy Father's
No,
Day.
stop
Happy
that.
Father's Day.
Stop. I'm a real dad
Happy
with a
Father's
real
Day.
family.
just-
And
I'm
you're
your dad
really
as
in
well.
front of my face. No.
Happy Father's
No,
Day.
no. We're going to set boundaries here today with all of you today.
Okay, already a lot going on, and I want to dive into some body language right out the gate. So there are a lot of really interesting moments, but one of them is when he says, I'm setting boundaries with you because you're on private property. And at the moment he says private property, his hands, who for most of this video are up here trying to block the cameras, turn upwards as his elbows come in towards his body. Now, palm orientation is a very interesting topic in body language, and it is not universal. Different cultures around the world use different orientations. But there are a few gestures with the hand orientation that are universal, and one of them is when the hands turn palm up in mid-conversation. And everywhere in the world, when this happens, it's likely that it falls into one of two categories. The first one is some kind of exchange. So whether we're giving an idea or asking for something, the hands will often go palm up. In fact, pretty much everyone in the world, no matter where you're tuning in from, you would recognize this gesture as me asking for something or offering something. The second meaning that is seen universally with this gesture is called an epistemic gesture, which means a lack of knowledge. Like I don't know, or I'm out of options, or I'm not sure what to do. And quite often we will see this accompanied with a shrug. So hands turn up and we shrug at the same time. But just the hands alone are often epistemic as well. Like I don't know what to do. In fact, in a lot of Middle Eastern cultures and other cultures around the world, there's a very common hand gesture with just one hand where it turns face up like this, often accompanied with sho. And what that literally means is what? And this gesture basically means, what do you want? What can I help you with? It even sometimes has this bit of a self-point or this back and forth. And that's interesting because it's both meanings in that one gesture, right? It has the what, that epistemic like, I don't know, plus what do you want? So that exchange. It's like both in one. So with Justin Bieber, he's doing this gesture as he's saying that he's going to set boundaries because they're on private property. And I think that's exactly the meaning. It's what do you want? What are you doing here? So I think it's very much epistemic, like he's trying to understand what are you doing on private property? You're not supposed to be here, but I think there's also a big element of what do you want with me? You're on private property, you're bothering me. The other thing you'll notice is that his elbows are not relaxed by his side like this. It's not going, what's going on here? They're inwards like this, and he's slightly even crouched forward. He's becoming smaller with those elbows right near his body. So whenever you see the elbows very close to someone's body in a social setting, it's very likely that they're feeling defensive or vulnerable. Because when we're relaxed and comfortable and confident, we open up, right? But as we get defensive, things close down. And this is seen all over the animal kingdom because we're defending all the important arteries, all the important organs. So I believe that this is a genuine moment of him feeling threatened and defensive and wondering why they're coming on private property to bother him. This lines up with a lot of other body language that we're seeing as well. There's one thing that we're seeing that I'm going to point out a moment where it happened, but this isn't the only time. It happens a lot in the clip that we saw and clips we're about to see. But this example is from when he says, "Don't do this." And he spits those words out, "Don't do this."
I'm not afraid to set boundaries. Don't do this.
And although there's a light behind him that's kind of blurring the camera, we very clearly see what we call a chin jut or thrust. It's not just "don't do this," it's "don't do this." And pretty much, again, anywhere in the world, when you see a conversation get heated and you start to hear those words being spit out with that chin thrusting forward, this is a universal gesture that happens in pre-aggression. In fact, we often see it in a fight where two people are about to fight and they're going at each other like this, taunting each other. Another behavior that we're seeing a lot of in this first stretch, and it's crazy to say that, because at some point, everything's gonna change and it's like we're looking at a completely different person behaviorally, but in this first stretch, we're seeing quite a few eyebrow flashes. And although it happens a lot, both times that he talks about his role as a father, it happens very clearly. The first one is when he says, "I'm a father of a real kid." And as he says real kid, those eyebrows go up and his eyes open up.
No, I'm a father of a real kid.
I understand.
Exactly.
Bro, I'm on the sidewalk.
And then just a few seconds later, he says, "I'm a real dad." And again, we see the eyebrow flash. This time, the eyes don't really open up as much.
Stop. I'm a real dad with a real family.
We also see all of the gestures that we just talked about when one of the reporters says, we're on the sidewalk, and he goes, "Now you are," and eyebrow flash, eyes wide open, and the hands go up like this with the elbows coming inwards. So my regular viewers know that I pay a lot of attention to the eyebrows because there's a lot of great research and they're quite reliable. Whenever in a conversation you see those eyebrows go up, it's usually one of three things. The first one is that we're emphasizing something. A lot of research has shown that we emphasize important things with the eyebrows. The second is some kind of social connection, social approval, something social, a social element to it, like when you greet someone. And the third one is surprise, when something surprises us. But all three things have something in common. We use the eyebrows to give something importance. Either we're saying, now this is important, either we're saying you're important, I notice you, or hey, something's important here, maybe we should all pay attention to this very surprising thing. This is also why it's very common to see the voice go up with those eyebrows. So if you pay attention to someone talking, it's crazy how often they'll synchronize the voice going up with those eyebrows going up. So think of the eyebrows as the exclamation point to the face. When there's something important, the eyebrows go up. So here, he's really putting a lot of importance on his role as a father. And the first time, even those eyes open up, which is something we do when we're alert, even angry. So I think there's a lot of emotion coming through here, but these eyebrows are telling us that his role as a father, I'm a dad to a real son. Are you not understanding this? There's a real plea here of how important this role is for him in his life. Now, before we move on and look at how this continued to escalate, I want to talk about the context of this interaction. So one of the things you'll notice is that, yes, they were where they shouldn't be because they're supposed to be on the sidewalk. They were a little bit more inwards by the car. They shouldn't be there, but it's not like they had him cornered, right? We very clearly see in the beginning, he was at the door. He could have just walked right into the van, but he didn't. He came out and engaged them. So that's an important note to keep in mind. As we keep watching this, you're going to notice there are several moments where they're on the sidewalk, things de-escalate, it's easy for everyone to go their separate ways, but he re-engages them. And that's going to be important for the overall analysis. The other thing that I want you to notice is right in the beginning, one of the paparazzi, as he's engaging them, says, "What's up, Jussie?" He calls him Jussie.
What's up, Jussie?
You know what's up. Don't get in front of my car, bro.
Hey.
Now, I bet this is something that this guy does often because when you use a nickname like that, in a lot of cases, it might immediately soften the person up because it suggests that there's a friendly relationship here. We use cute nicknames for each other, so it kind of bypasses the critical thinking and establishes this friendly relationship. And I bet that there are some situations in which this has worked well for him. But I would say know your audience. Justin Bieber is someone who has often had issues with boundaries and respect. And even here, we hear him saying a lot that, I don't know you. Don't wish me a happy Father's Day. Don't ask me these questions. He's going to say that a lot. So it's rather likely that he's not very okay with these paparazzi that he doesn't know calling him Jussie like they're old friends. So I think even whether it's consciously registered or even subconsciously, something like that might add to the irritation right off the bat.
Because I'm not to be with by any of you, including you. Including any of you guys. No, stop that.
Hey, don't hit
You
the
don't
guy.
get to talk to me
You don't
today.
need to hit him.
No. He's my friend. He's my friend, bro. All of you guys are my friends. No. You're not gonna do this today. No, you don't get to ask me questions.
Why not?
Because you just don't.
Why?
Because I'm not your. We're not buddies.
Just say that.
You're on private property.
You're not afraid to
No.
be deported?
No. I'm a father. I'm a dad.
Question, man.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Happy Father's Day,
I'm a dad.
Happy
Don't
Father's
say
Day.
Happy Father's Day to me.
Why, you're a
because
dad.
I don't know you.
Why, you're a dad.
I don't know
You
you.
just said.
I don't know you.
Well, bro, just
You
ask
don't
me.
go to people you don't know and say out of nowhere with a camera in their face. You don't.
Oh my God.
You don't. No, you don't. You don't go to someone you don't know and you stick a camera in their face. You don't do that.
All right then.
You don't do that.
But you're a celebrity.
Yeah, that's
It
what
doesn't
Yeah,
matter if
yeah,
I'm a celebrity
you're
or
a
not.
public figure.
Yeah,
It
public
doesn't
figure.
matter if I'm a
Figure,
public
man.
figure.
That's why I will ask you a question. Otherwise, why am I gonna ask you a question?
On private
Why?
property?
Why am I gonna ask you
No,
a
we're not
question?
in
With the
private
camera.
property. We're in the
Hey,
sidewalk.
man, we're in the sidewalk, bro.
Look, Justin,
So
we're in the
what you're gonna
sidewalk.
do is take this video out of context, like you always do. You'll take this video out of
I just
context,
had a question.
like you always
If
do.
you're not afraid to be
You'll take
deported,
this
that's what's
video
there, that's
out of
the question.
context, like you always do.
And that goes on about 10 more times. That's not an exaggeration. He says, you guys will take this video out of context somewhere between a dozen to 15 times. And I just cut it down to get to the analysis, but I'll leave a link in the description to the whole video where you could go see the whole thing. It's very long. But there's some really interesting stuff happening here in the beginning, one of which confused me quite a bit because he's telling them, I'm not to be effed with by any of you, including you. And he taps his bodyguard as he says, then he says, including you. He includes him in this, I'm not to be effed with group of people. And the reaction of the bodyguard is rather interesting because he looks at Justin, as Justin says that, and he also looks beyond him to the other employee there. I don't know if it's another bodyguard or the other guy is standing to Justin Bieber's left. He kind of looks at him as well. He looks back and forth like this. And he has this look of like trying to figure it out because he's also a little shifty and he's kind of looking around. But it's not this big like, wait, what? Like he's not that confused, which leads me to believe that he's used to Justin Bieber saying these random kind of things, maybe just to get people to be like, wait, what is he saying? What is he talking about? Because he doesn't seem that shocked by it. It does seem like he's taking a second to try to figure out, like, did I hear that right? But he's not outright shocked by it. Next, we go into this little confrontation between Justin Bieber and the paparazzi, which is a little confusing if you listen to what he's saying. And he gets called out on the confusion of what he's saying, and I think he knows very well that he was caught out and doesn't really have a good answer. Because he says, you don't get to ask me these questions. And one of the paparazzi goes, why not? Like, it's such a simple question, but yeah, why not? Like, this is their job. What they do is ask questions. And look at Justin Bieber's response. He goes, because as he's gonna answer, he freezes up.
No, you don't get to ask me questions.
Why not?
Because you just don't.
Why?
And as he's saying that, as he hesitates and goes, because you just don't, something happens that very rarely happens on the channel. It's so fleeting, it's so fast, it's so small that it's very hard for me to get a picture of it because it's more of a feeling than a specific moment. But if you really look at it, and I'll play it for you a couple of times, and I'll try to put a screenshot up, it's almost like a very quick and small smile happens. It's not a smile. Don't look for a smile. He's not smiling. But it's more in the energy of it in that moment. We almost feel, look at it, like he's maybe just about to like laugh or smile and he stops himself.
Because you just don't. Because you just don't.
I don't know if any of you are seeing it. Let me know in the comments if you're seeing it. It's fleeting, it's fast. But I believe that in that moment, he knows very well that there isn't a good answer to him telling paparazzi, you don't get to ask me questions, and the guy just going, why not? I think as he stumbles, he realizes, yeah, no, there isn't really a good answer here, and immediately just goes to, you just don't. That's it. That's all it is. There's no real explanation here. And then this continues into this whole don't say Happy Father's Day to me, you don't know me, and this whole you don't just go up to someone that you don't know and ask them questions. And they're kind of laughing and they're confused by it and they're kind of mocking it a little bit because they know very well that he knows that this is their job. Of course it's what they do. He knows that. So in their head, this would be like me walking into a Starbucks and going up to the barista and saying, you don't just serve people coffee. You don't just get to make coffee and then give it to people in exchange for money. Like he's telling them you don't get to and then describing their job. So in this moment, I actually think there's quite a lot going on with him because this isn't just an act of rebellion towards two people who overstepped, because even if they were a little closer to his car, it doesn't seem like they overstepped too much. It's not like they had him wedged in a corner or anything like that. They were just a little bit further off the sidewalk. So this goes beyond him just telling two paparazzis off, and I think it's him with all this pent-up frustration, rebelling against the entire celebrity paparazzi relationship. He's saying overall, globally, what you do isn't normal. Like almost even saying like, do something else in life because it's not normal, no matter how much we've normalized it, for someone to go up to, you know, this person that they don't know and ask them this question. He's also referencing being a father and a husband a lot. So I think there's actually a lot going on with him mentally, whether it's in this moment or in his life, where as a new father, he's realizing that he had a tough childhood. He was robbed of his childhood and he wants some kind of normalcy for his child. And I think this is a public outcry of like, I want a bit of a normal life for my kid, and this dynamic, this life doesn't work. You don't get to just do these random things, even if this is something that we've come to accept as a society. It's not normal. So he's rebelling against the whole system, not just these two individual people. Okay, now we're going to look at two pretty big behavioral shifts. The moment that went very viral and this random behavior that came out of nowhere, which we so rarely see in behavioral analysis. But before we do me a huge favor, hit that subscribe button, turn those notifications on for more behavioral analysis and practical psychology content. And also, for those of you who are on Facebook, please make sure to join the Facebook group. I'll leave a link in the description, but I'll be posting short outtakes from these analysis videos on there, and I can really use your help by liking, commenting, and sharing those videos to get the page out there. So if you're on Facebook, come check it out. I'll see you there.
Demanding respect.
I don't know why you mad like that.
You confuse my anger with disrespect. It's anger because you're disrespecting me. You don't get to disrespect me and get away with it.
I'm not going to respect you, bro, at all.
You don't get to disrespect me and get away with it. No, not tonight, sir. Not tonight, sir. Not tonight. None of you get to do that and take this video out of context and say Justin lost his mind.
No,
you don't get to do
just
that.
answer a question.
You don't get to do that. You don't get to force questions in people's face and take videos out of context and use it against people. That's mean. That's mean to take videos and use it against people out of context. It's mean to do that. It's mean to provoke people. It's just mean.
It was just a question.
It's just mean to provoke people, man.
We're not provoking you, Justin. I
You
don't know why
can-
you're mad like that.
You can try to provoke me by saying,
We
I don't know why
respect
you're
you all
mad.
the
I'm not
time.
provoking you at all.
You guys are on
The guy
private
just said-
property talking
The
trying
guy
to
just
provoke
says to
me.
you,
It's okay.
Happy
You're going to
Father's
take this
Day,
video
you got
out of
mad.
context. You're going to take this video
We
out
just
of
say Happy
context.
Father's Day, you
I'm
get
no
mad.
idiot.
That's it.
I'm no idiot. I love my nights. I love my evenings. I'm not going to be backed into a corner. Okay? So I need you guys to leave. I'm not going to be backed into a corner. Not tonight. I love my evenings too much. I do.
We as well.
All right. He
I
said it,
love
man.
my evenings
Yeah,
too
Call
that's
it
much.
night. Call it night. Wrap it up, dude.
I love my
over.
evenings too much. You can take these videos out of context. You can try to make me seem like a bad guy. I like my evenings.
No, you're
I
a cool
love
guy.
my
You're
wife.
not a bad guy. You're
I
a
love
cool
my
guy.
wife. I love my family.
I know, we
And
know
you
that.
provoke me, and it's sad, bro.
No, we're not provoking you.
But
We
let's
just
leave
say
it at
Happy
that.
Father's
Let's
Day.
leave it at that. There's no blame here. Let's leave it at that. I love my evenings. Let me enjoy that evening. Let you enjoy your evening as well, please.
All right, so in this clip, we saw the first of two pretty big behavioral changes. And it's funny because it almost seemed in this clip like he was doing the good cop, bad cop routine all by himself. That's what it felt like to me, because right in the beginning, as he's saying, you don't get to disrespect me and get away with it, that's the angriest delivery in this entire video. He's really worked up there. He yells it at them, and there's so much frustration and anger behind what he's saying.
Because you're disrespecting me. You don't get to disrespect me and get away with it.
And then this aggressive tone sticks around for a little bit as he says a lot of the same things he was saying up until this point. But then we see it start to soften as he's talking about how it's mean, and he drags that mean.
It's just mean.
It was just a question.
When you tell someone, that's mean, that's pretty aggressive. It's similar if you go, that's mean. Like, that's a softer tone. It's more of like a, why are you doing this kind of tone? Like when we drag, like, stop being that way. Like, it's a little softer in delivery. And even in the way that he goes, you don't get to provoke people, man. Like, so everything gets softer. But it's not just the tonality, it's the body language as well, for sure. Notice how as his tone softens, we start to see a lot of a gesture all of a sudden. And it happened namely when he says, it's mean to provoke people, man, right in that moment, and then it keeps happening. We see the inner corners of his eyebrows come up and close together like this. Now, this is something that I call Atari eyebrows because it looks like the logo from Atari because the eyebrows are literally doing this. But this is something that's very difficult to fake. Very few people in the world can purposely bring just the inner corners of the eyebrows up while the rest of the eyebrow stays down. And I know that a lot of you are trying it right now because I said that not a lot of people can do it. And there's even been a lot of people who told me that they can do it, but then they couldn't. They just thought they were doing it. But basically, I can't do it. It's getting those inner corners up like this while the outer corners still stay down. Now, it's hard to do this on purpose. It's not impossible. There are some actors who could do it. Jim Carrey is a good example. But this is something that universally happens with sadness or grief or, that family of emotions, sadness. And in this moment, as his tone is softening, and you could almost hear a sadness all of a sudden in his voice, also, all of a sudden, his eyebrows are doing this thing out of nowhere, which I could pretty much guarantee you he's not really aware is happening all of a sudden. There's a pretty reliable cluster of behaviors that happens at some point that you could look for in the real world with very high confidence. And it's when one of the reporters says, we're not provoking you, Justin. And at the very same time, he tilts his head as his lips thin out. And immediately after the thinning of the lips, we hear that tusk sound. And if you look at his right shoulder, we see a shrug like this at the same time.
Provoke people, man.
We're not provoking you, Justin. I don't know why you're mad like that.
So each of these gestures, depending on context, can have a lot of meaning. But when they come together, we have this thin mouth, the head tilt, and that shoulder shrug at the same time. This together constitutes a shrug. So the best research on shrugging was conducted in France at Université Paris-Nanterre by Camille Debras. And she discovered that there are a lot of components to a shrug that could work together. Of course, the shoulders, the hands as well, but sometimes the mouth goes into a mouth shrug, which is a thinning and a lifting, and a head tilt as well is often part of a shrug. Now, it could be all of these things at the same time. It could be some of these things. And of course, you could see individually these gestures elsewhere mean something else, but when they happen together, it's very likely a shrug. And shrugs, according to the research, denote a disengagement. I don't something. I don't care. I don't know. I don't want to do that. I don't have anything to add to that. Someone's like, yeah, I don't have anything to add to that. So it's, I don't something. It's even funny how if you break it down, some of these individual components make perfect sense in a shrug because lip compression is very consistent with withheld opinion or holding something in. So it makes sense that it would be in a shrug. It's like, I don't know what to say or I don't have anything to say. Same with a head tilt. Head tilts happen very much in exchanges of sympathy, but also in curiosity or skepticism. So I don't really know about that. I don't know what to think about that. So when you're a little confused or I don't know if I agree with that, it's normal to see that head tilt. And then of course we have the hands up that we talked about earlier, which are often part of a shrug. And we said that one of the meanings for that is epistemic. And Camille Debras also called these epistemic shrugs, sometimes saying, I don't know, or I don't know what to say, or I don't know what to add. So it's so funny how it all comes together and makes perfect sense. In this case, the reporter is saying, we're not trying to provoke you. And I really interpret that shrug there as, I don't know about that. I'm not so sure about that, right? Because we have that head tilt, which is an element of curiosity or skepticism, like I'm not so sure about that, with the mouth, with that tusk sound, like I'm not so sure about that. So that really very consistently looks like a moment of disagreement, and I don't know about that. I don't know if I agree with that.
To provoke people, man.
We're not provoking you, Justin. I don't know why you're mad like that.
Notice how after this shrug happens, he keeps his head in that head tilt position as he keeps talking about how mean it is to provoke people. Now in this soft tone with the soft eyebrows, with the head tilt. And again, remember, when head tilt happens, in most cases, of course not always, but in most cases, it's either skepticism or curiosity, something along those lines. We're trying to figure something out, or some kind of exchange of sympathy. Either we're requesting sympathy or we're giving sympathy. Aww. And the research on this is actually quite fascinating. They found that because you're tilting your head a little bit, it feels less like an intimidating glare. So it's a softer look. It also exposes a vulnerability, the neck, so it kind of shows that I'm not a threat here. So this is a very sympathetic, soft look, and I think that's why it's staying that way. I think it could have tilted originally as like a, I'm not so sure about that, but now with this softer tone, it's staying in the sympathetic place with his tone. Also, one last thing with this clip before we go to the big viral moment, as he says, it's just mean. There's a very quick flash of contempt. And this is something we talk about on the channel a lot. Contempt is one of the universal emotions, and it's characterized by a scrunching on one side of the face. So sometimes it looks like this, sometimes it looks like this. So it's mostly around the mouth, but we sometimes see it on the cheek, around the nose, and with the eye as well. And here we see it in the eye. It almost like, he almost blinks for a very fast second. It's harder to see because that light is kind of blocking the left side of his face. But if you pay attention to that, as it says, it's just mean. We see that lip on the right side quickly pop up like this. It creates a line on the side of the nose, and we see the eye kind of wink for a second. And contempt is basically when we look down on someone or when there's a kind of moral judgment on someone. So in this case, I think as he's saying it's mean, there's a little bit of moral judgment on what they do, which isn't much of a surprise given what he's been saying this whole time. Oh yeah, and another thing, the cherry on top of this soft serve sundae is that at the end of all this, as he calms down, he's in a calmer tone, he says, let's leave it at that. There's no blame here. And he says, I'm going to enjoy my evening and you enjoy your evening as well, please. So all of a sudden, there's no blame here. But like for literally at this point, 5 or 6 minutes, he's just been blaming them for being near the car, for not being on the sidewalk, for asking these questions. So all of a sudden we soften up, and it's not just different behaviorally, but even the words that he's saying, no blame here. That's not consistent with what was happening a moment ago. And now he's saying, I'm going to have a good night and you enjoy your evening as well. So now we're almost going slightly towards pleasantries or, enjoy your evening. So it's strange. There's a behavioral shift, and we're about to see another one as well.
Thank you. That'll be enough. Appreciate it.
Have a good night, Justin. Have Father's Day, man, as well.
All right.
Oh,
I don't want you guys to be standing around here. That's all I'm trying to say.
Justin, we're in the sidewalk.
I know, but I'm here.
Have a good night.
See all your fans.
It's an energy thing.
You see your fans?
It's not a, you know what I mean? It's nothing but an energy thing. You're here, you know what I mean? I feel you. I'm a dad, I'm a husband. You're not getting it. It's not clocking to you. It's not clocking to you that I'm standing on business, is it?
We're in the sidewalk, Justin.
I don't give a if you're on the sidewalk. I'm a human being. You're standing around my car at the beach. You know what I'm saying? You don't think I'm a real guy, do you? You're gonna take this video out of context. You're gonna say I'm mad. I don't know who the paying you to provoke me, but I'm not the one. Okay? Stop provoking me and I'm a real dad, a real husband, a real man.
All right.
So don't do this to me. Okay?
All right, cool.
I'm not to be with. I don't know who's paying you to with me or provoke me, but I'm not the one. I don't care that you're on the sidewalk. I don't care what kind of dirty work, what kind of nasty you're getting paid in the background to provoke me, bro, but I'm not the one. I'm really not the one. I don't care that you're on the sidewalk, bro. Clearly you're here for an alternate agenda. Why would you want to be here to provoke me like this? This isn't love.
You're not provoking, Jason.
This isn't love, bro. This is weird, bro. Y'all are on some real weird shit. Literally.
All right, have a good night, Justin.
Okay, then go, then have a good night somewhere else, man, for real.
All right,
Because
cool.
I'm not going to stand around here and let this happen. No sir. No way. No how.
All right, cool.
This is the beach.
You guys
People
gotta make
get to
room,
be
too.
at the beach. They do. They do. They get to be at the beach.
Okay, and now we get this other entire shift to this new person behaving in new ways that we haven't seen up until now in this clip. And it's very distinct. So first of all, notice how for the 4th or 5th time in this clip, it could have been over. Things calmed down, they got the message, they backed off, he was on the way back to the car, and he re-provoked. And we're gonna talk about this in the conclusion some more, but just notice how there were several moments where it could have ended, and he's the one who re-engage. Now in this case, we start to get these words that are very performative and these gestures that are very performative. We're getting a lot of this kind of thing, bigger, broader gestures as he's pointing and he's saying the lines that went viral. You don't get it. I'm standing on business. So he's saying all these random things all of a sudden, and he's moved away from this moment where he's angry with them and we're seeing these real emotions to something that now looks quite performative. The other thing that you'll notice that's really interesting to me as a behavioral analyst is these bounces as he's talking. So he's talking and he's got these little bounces in there and they're rhythmic in nature. So this could be very much the performer in him who's like used to like in this communication kind of like bouncing to the rhythm. But in the real world, if you extract everything else, the emotion, the tonality, the context, when we see these kind of bouncing gestures, it's often a positive thing, and we call them gravity-defying gestures. So if you see someone, for example, talking on the phone, and you kind of see this bounce to them as they're talking, you can in most cases assume that there's a positive exchange going on, something they're excited about, very often with excitement. In fact, anything that's upwards is usually quite positive, right? And it's even in our language. We say, you're jumping for joy, you're floating on clouds, right? These upwards things signify joy, whereas the opposite, you're feeling down in the dumps, you're feeling low. Low is negative, up is positive. So these bounces in this moment kind of seem a little out of place if you think about it as a positive gesture in a negative exchange. But if you understand a little bit of the why some of these things happen, it starts to make a little bit of sense. So the reason we have these upwards gravity-defying gestures when we're excited or happy is because it's a release of energy, right? You're worked up, you're excited with this positivity, and it's just a release. You're literally jumping for joy. It's like this pop of excitement. Now in psychology, there's a lot of research to back up the fact that sometimes when we feel a certain high emotionally, we feel a high in a different emotion as a result. And there are a lot of theories as to why this happens, and one that's really, really fascinating is that because the brain is feeling a certain way, but it doesn't know why, it misattributes that feeling to a different stimulus. And there's a lot of research on this. It's been proven in different ways. I'll leave some links in the description. But for example, the research has shown that when we're in a state of fear, after fear, or even exercise, after exercise, when we're feeling that high, we are more likely to be attracted to things or aroused by things more easily. And it's because the brain is in this state of excitement, it doesn't know why, so it assumes it's because we're attracted to this person or thing. Another theory as to why these random spikes happen is to balance out that high. So our brain doesn't like to all of a sudden experience this high emotion, so it almost makes itself feel the opposite emotion at a high to balance everything out. And one of the best examples of this that we see out there is called cute aggression. So we see a lot of people when they see a cute baby or a kitten or a puppy, instead of being cute, like happy, they go, oh, they become sad or even angry, like, oh my God, I'm gonna eat you up, I wanna bite you. So they go to that cute aggression, right? And this is the body just creating a negative feeling to balance out that extreme positive. Just kind of bring everything to the middle. Whatever the case may be, very often one extreme emotion brings another extreme emotion. So in this case, I'm pretty sure he just worked himself up so much that he almost got excited. Because now everything is changing. He's performing a little bit more. He's bouncing around. He's like pointing, bigger, broader gestures. Moments ago, we were in this sad, soft place. Before that, we were angry and worked up. He is just going through a bunch of emotional spikes. And I think this is just where we landed. I also think that after a couple of minutes, he's made his point. And now he's kind of going back into that, performance, celebrity, Justin Bieber, let me give them a clip here that's going to go viral type thing. Like he made his point. And now he's just kind of going back into the life. Some other interesting gestures that we're seeing here. One is when he says, it's not clocking to you that I'm standing on business. We see this squint that's happening. And this is a squint that we very often see when we're imparting wisdom on someone, giving someone advice. And I think it's almost like this curiosity of like, I'm trying to see if this is making sense to you, which is why we often see with, does that make sense? We might say that squint. Does that make sense to you? There could also be a bit of an element of that annoyed confusion there. Like if someone does something annoying and weird, you might go like, what the hell are you doing? Type thing. But I definitely feel a lot of that squint of like, I'm standing on business. Like I'm explaining to you what's going on here. You don't get it, so I'm going to explain it to you. Definitely some of that in that squint. Another really good sign that this squint is a little bit of that imparting wisdom and not just confusion or like, what the hell are you talking about? Is because the paparazzi says, I'm standing on the sidewalk, and he goes, I don't care that you're standing on the sidewalk, and the squint changes. It goes from this, I'm standing on business to I don't care. So we literally see it scrunch more. The eyebrows come down and more together. And that is definitely the squint of like, what are you talking about? Like when we're annoyed and we squint to try to like understand, like, what are you saying? I don't care what you're talking about. That anger squint is different from the squint we saw a second ago when he said, I'm standing on business, which is more like, I'm explaining to you what's going on here. Do you understand what's happening? Another thing that he's doing a lot of here, and we saw a little bit before, but definitely not this much, is something that in body language we call fig leafing. And that's when the hands come together like this in front of the pelvic area. And this is something that's often defensive because when we feel vulnerable or when we feel defensive, we block and protect the vital organs. And there's a very vital organ down there that's very important. So very often in men, we see the hands together and block down there. Now, with that said, please note that in rap culture or in R&B culture or in music, we very often see the men pose like this with their hands in front of them and the chin up like this. Now, the chin up is confident and often their elbows are away from them like this, and that's confident as well. I'm not really sure why the hands are in front of them like that in that pose very commonly, but it might be something that for him, when he's posturing, his hands might have the tendency to go there just out of habit because of the circles that he grew up in. It is possible, but generally speaking in body language, when the hands go there, it's defensive, it's protective. But the weirdest thing is all of a sudden, out of nowhere, we start to see him very, very often stick his tongue out the side. And if you go back and watch the rest of the interview, because there's like a whole 8-9 minutes before this happens, every now and then we see that tongue very quickly come out like this off the side. But here, it doesn't stop. There's sentences where he does it 2-3 times in one sentence, and someone's on the right, someone's on the left.
I'm really not the one. Clearly
Provoking, Jason.
this isn't love, bro. This is weird. No way. No how.
All right, cool.
It's a game. They got the wrong guy. These guys think they... No, bro. No.
Right, Justin.
I'm a real human.
Never gonna.
And it's not a lip lick, because sometimes when we're stressed, we lick the lips to correct the stress, or sometimes when we're grooming, adjusting the way we look, because we know the camera's on, we might see a lip lick like that. It's not that. It also doesn't look much like what we call the tongue jut of disgust, which is every now and then when we expel an unpleasant thought, typically because that doesn't happen 87 times. It happens like we have an unpleasant thought, we expel it, and we move on from it. But even physically, it doesn't look much like that at all. It's just as quick, tongue coming out, left, right, it moves around sometimes, and it's out of nowhere. I think the most likely explanation of what's happening with this tongue is that it falls into a category of gestures that has a lot of different names in the research. Adapters, pacifiers, manipulators, self-soothing gestures, and these are repetitive gestures that often have a massage-like element to them that help us reduce stress when we're feeling stressed. And the reason I believe it might be that is, first of all, because it is repetitive, and we do sometimes see pacifiers with the tongue. Like in a meeting, if somebody might be stressed, you might see them massage the gums or the inner lips with the tongue like this, back and forth, back and forth. So it might be that, but another thing is, I know that there are certain men with mustaches, and he's got a bit of a mustache, that will sometimes pacify by touching their tongue to the little hairs because it kind of feels nice. I do it sometimes too. So it might be that, especially because he's got his mustache and it kind of seems like the tongue is going right to where that mustache ends. This might be a pacifying gesture for him. I can't explain why else all of a sudden out of nowhere, he's doing a whole ton of this. I'm gonna throw out another theory, but this is just a theory. It's not in my field of expertise, but I'm sure that some people watching do have a lot of experience in this. So maybe somebody can chime in here. For those of you who have any experience with someone who's going through withdrawal momentarily, is this something that we might see? Because there's an element of this going like, is this, because all of a sudden, out of nowhere, we're getting this kind of thing. Could it be I don't know whether it's substances or alcohol, maybe he was drinking wherever he was. Could this be a sign of withdrawal? Just a theory. I'm just throwing it out there. If you have experience in this, let me know in the comments. Does that make any sense? Another gesture that we saw here is that he crossed his arms, but in a very specific way. One of the biggest myths in body language is that crossed arms means stress. They don't always. Sometimes you might see somebody in the grocery store standing like this, and that's just comfort. They're just comfortable standing that way. What we're looking for is change. All of a sudden, they go into this position and other things that accompany it. So in this case, it's not just the crossed arms, it's that both hands are inward. So it's not this, it's this. And everything seems very tight. This is called a self-hug. It's closer, it's more defensive. And there's a lot more stuff happening that are in line with defensive or stressed. So it makes sense in this context that that's what this means. Alone, crossed arms, not so much. So there is a lot of behavior here happening that's very consistent with being defensive or stressed. We have the self-hug, we have the figgly thing, we have what looks to me to be this pacifying gesture out of nowhere. So I do think that he kind of worked himself into a frenzy, and I think he's saying some stuff that don't make a lot of sense. That's just the performer in him coming out. But I also do believe that there's quite a bit of real stress and anger here. That said, I want to talk about the context a little bit before we go to the conclusion. There are a lot of people who have commented on the situation online saying, of course it's a planned publicity stunt. That's how this paparazzi works. Somebody who works for him on his team has to call them and say, this is where he's going to be, and they show up and they film. And people who are saying that have a little bit too much certainty and are being a little too conclusive. That's one of the ways that this works. Now, I've been in the entertainment industry pretty much my entire life. I've been on shows before because paparazzi's got footage of me. I have friends who have been on shows that paparazzi's got footage of them. It's obviously never going to be at this scale, but it's enough for me to understand how it works. So the time that I was on TMZ, yes, that's exactly what happened. My publicist called his contact at TMZ, said, hey, Spidey's performing at the Friars Club. And the guy showed up at the Friars Club, got an interview with me, made me do some mentalism effects for him, and it made it on TMZ. That's the way it happened that time. But I got to talking to him and he said, look, sometimes publicists call me, sometimes we get anonymous tips. Somebody's at a restaurant, they go, oh my God, Brad Pitt is here. So they get that tip. And sometimes he said he goes to celebrity hotspots and he just waits. Obviously, they don't only have one method to find celebrities, they have multiple avenues to find celebrities or public figures out there to get this footage. And that brings me to my next point. If we listen to what he's saying in this video, like if I just heard the audio of this and I didn't see the video, it would sound to me like they're bothering him at the beach. Like he's trying to have a beach day with his wife and kid because he keeps saying, I'm a dad, I'm a husband. We get to have a day at the beach. So it would really paint this image in my head that he's just trying to have a nice beach day with his wife and kid and they're bothering him. But then when you look at the video, it doesn't look like that at all. First of all, it's at night. So I don't know what beach he's talking about. He doesn't look like he's in beachwear at all. His wife and kid are nowhere in sight. So it becomes obvious that he's just bringing that up because he's like, leave me alone. I'm a father, I'm a husband, but it doesn't relate to the current situation. So I looked it up and it turns out he's not at the beach per se, technically. He's at like a beach club, like a dinner or, some kind of drinking dinner club by the beach in a popular area where a lot of celebrities go. So given all that, it's very possible that these paparazzi just hang around there to run into celebrities the way they have over here. But the bottom line is there's no real way to know with certainty how they ended up being there, whether it was called in or whether it was random. And anybody who's certain about either one, anyone who's like, oh yeah, for sure somebody on his side called it in, or oh, for sure it was just random because at a hotspot so they ran into him, doesn't really get how evidence works, because these are just theories, but they don't constitute concrete evidence to know for a fact how they ended up bumping into him. And then the final consideration for my conclusion is something we already touched on, is the fact that there were numerous moments in this where he could have just gotten in the van and drove away. Right in the beginning, they weren't blocking him from getting there. They weren't in his way. He chose to engage them. And then several moments throughout, he chose to re-engage them, even when they were on the sidewalk where they're allowed to be legally. So my conclusion, I could see this from both sides. This is one of the most nuanced things I could possibly look at, because I understand, or I can at least imagine what it's like for him to constantly, everywhere he goes, have paparazzi in his face and to get irritated by that and to want to draw a line, especially as a recent father myself. He's a recent father as well. So I can get how he's panicking because he doesn't want the cameras all around his child. He doesn't want his child's picture and video all over the place on the internet. So I get the panic, I get the irritation. On the other hand, I could definitely see from the paparazzi that they're doing their job. And yes, they're a little bit off the sidewalk where they shouldn't be. And yes, they're calling him Justy, like they're best buds. But at the end of the day, they have a job. At some point he even says, like, I don't know who's paying you, to provoke me like this. And it's like, yeah, you do know who's paying. What do you mean you know who's paying them? You know what they do for a living. So it's kind of bizarre how there's this thing where he's pretending to not understand the dynamic, but he knows this dynamic. He's known this dynamic his whole life. But at the end of the day, I guess it doesn't matter who I think is in the right and who I think is in the wrong, because that's moral judgment, and I don't think anybody's really an expert on morality. We can all decide for ourselves who we think is in the wrong, who we think is in the right. But behaviorally, I do believe that we're looking at someone who's actually irritated here. There are moments of performance there. There are moments where he goes more into that performative body language, but there are definite moments here that are undeniably defensive. We're seeing a lot of real signs of agitation in his tone, in the way he's spitting those words out, in the way that he's processing things, in the way that he's at a loss of words. We're seeing a lot of irritation in the face. We're seeing pleas of sympathy. We're even seeing things that aren't easy to fake, like those eyebrows in those moments of sympathy when we're shifting into that. And just too much going on here that feels like he's having a real moment of just expressing his frustration with this whole system. So ultimately, I don't believe that this is this big setup that he did for a publicity stunt. Are there elements of that? Yeah, especially because after this, he went to social media and he posted about it, and he was kind of joking about it, and he posted those little musical remixes of this moment to maybe kind of take control of it or get ahead of it. I totally understand that. But I do believe that we are seeing genuine emotion and genuine anger in moments of this confrontation. But let me know in the comments what you think. What are the moments where you feel you're seeing the most real emotion in all of this? And what are the moments that you feel are more performative, or him giving into that paparazzi celebrity relationship that he understands very well? Also, let me know if you get his position here or not, because it makes sense to me that some people look at it and go, hey, you're a celebrity, you chose this life, deal with what comes with it. And other people that go, no, he's within his rights here to be like, listen, there's a limit, I want my privacy, please respect that. I'd love to know what you guys think of that, because for me, I go back and forth between the two. I kind of see both sides very much. So let me know in the comments what you think of all this, and I will see you on the next one.